Hello and welcome to another edition of Inside the Burrow, the FAU podcast for and by fans. My name is Dan. I am joined as always by Shane and Jack. And tonight we are going to be breaking down the FAU conference opener 45 to, what was the final score? 27 against Charlotte. We'll kind of go over that victory a little bit, and then we'll dig a little bit into some Conference USA games a little bit more depth. FAU was on a bye week this coming week, so we'll just do one episode so you guys are aware. But I guess we'll dig right into it here. It was nice to see. There were some sketchy moments throughout the game, I think, especially when Charlotte kind of kept coming back. But you saw a lot of things that we were concerned about. If you go back and listen to to last week's show where we had where we basically previewed Charlotte, there was some obviously concerns about the offensive line who played better. I mean, Lane admitted today that it wasn't great, but it was better, and there was some promise. FAU finished with over 200 yards rushing, and Chris Robinson, another strong game, 20 for 27, 312 yards for 2 touchdowns and an interception, although that interception wasn't really his fault. And, again, you're kind of seeing he's when given the chance, when he's given time, he's making the right decisions. There really wasn't – I really can't recall a time where he really forced anything as well. So overall, a really solid performance by the offense. There's good numbers all up and down there. So I think that was good to see. And, we'll talk a little bit more about some other things. But I don't know, Shane, what was your initial impression about the game?
Well, it's a huge win. Anytime you can get a win on the road, it's really big. I know there was kind of a lot of talk about us and this kind of being a really tough game, with Ben LeMay and everything. And, you saw on the field and how much more talented we were than them. I mean, we were bigger, faster, stronger. That was apparent. Charlotte's depth, especially on defense, was just not close to ours and just the type of player we have. And, they've recruited at the bottom of Conference USA the last 4 years, kind of in the bottom 3 or 4, and we've recruited near the top. And it shows in a game like that. I think it's safe to say Chris Robinson's really arrived. We're just at the another 300-yard game type thing.
Right. Yeah.
One interesting stat I saw just looking at some of the season stats is we're already at 7 players who have over 10 receptions this year. Last year we only had 5 the whole year. Right. And 2 of those 5 had exactly 10. So I expect a couple more of the running backs when Malcolm Davidson and, Willie Wright gets them. We might finish the year with maybe, 9, 10 guys with double-digit receptions, and definitely 7 guys with over 20 receptions. So just our ability to kind of spread the ball around. You could tell early Charlotte was taking away some of our deeper passing game. That was their goal, and then we got the running game going. I liked the I said this in the fall. I didn't really put it out there just because we're limited to talk to about, and I saw this in kind of that last scrimmage of after the spring game, the week after they had the closed scrimmage, and you saw a lot of these type of Tronti packages.
Right.
They started running yesterday that they ran in that closed scrimmage. And I said to myself, and I remember discussing this with Jake Elman, I said, man, even if Chris wins the job, are we going to put some packages in for Tronti? Just, we saw a little bit of that in some of that practice, and just his ability to run. He's a big, strong kid, and they did that. Now, what I do want to see is I kind of liked it from the standpoint of, okay, we got the offense moving. It's the kind of this no huddle offense. We know once you get that first down and everything kind of gets rolling, right? So he'd run them, get a first down, and then we'd have to sub in Chris, which is sometimes a little tough He comes in and instead of just keeping it rolling. Also, now it's all on film. So it's not going to be a shock when he runs. So I'm just kind of want to see how they, if they start to pass off of it and what other plays they can kind of grow off that. Because, who knows how long it'll work when everyone just keys in on it.
He did have one pass attempt, and it got blown up, and I think he may have gotten sacked.
Yeah,
I think pass where it looked like he was going to pass.
So he had a completion later when they officially pulled Robinson.
Yeah.
So, it's I'm kind of curious, but they had 230 yards of rushing. Malcolm Davidson, Larry McMahon, I don't think it's serious. It looked like he re-aggravated that ankle he hurt a couple weeks ago, but we can never have all our running backs, it seems. But Malcolm Davidson, who's coming back from an injury of his own and still didn't look like he was running at 100%.
No.
Had a huge game. So it seems like it's all starting to come together.
Yeah.
And Shane, also don't forget about James Charles. James Charles sat out the previous game against Wagner, and then he scored a touchdown against Charlotte. So James Charles, who's been at FAU for how long now, stayed put instead of transferring on out. He's seeing the benefits of his patience, and that's really good to see.
Yeah. Continue. Yeah, go.
Yeah, so I was also going to give you a shout-out as well because I'm not sure if you remember this or not, but you mentioned the packages with Tronti running the ball before the season even started on one of the episodes. I'm going to have to look back and see which one it was. We were all thinking, okay, we'll see how that actually goes. But it was so good to see the kind of change of pace when those Tronti, I call them Wildcat-esque style of formations and plays, a lot of times out of the pistol, sometimes out of the shotgun with a wide receiver running in motion. It was really nice to see those kind of plays and then switching back to Robinson. That change of pace I thought was perfect to keep the Charlotte defense on their toes, especially when the Charlotte defense started to dig in and give our offense some issues. I'm just blown away. Our running defense, where did that come from? I'm not sure if that's our running defense really just stepping up and showing that, hey, we can actually make some plays for once in this, decade, or if that was just poor offensive game planning by Charlotte. Because we talked about it, how we would like for Reynolds to throw the ball. We want Charlotte to throw the ball against our DBs. They had a decent job passing, but we knew that our athleticism could counteract any big plays they would get in the air. But they kept going to the air for some reason instead of attacking what I think is our weakest part of our defense.
I think it was a combination of both. I know a lot of people are like, why didn't LeMay get the ball out? I think it was more the flow of the game. I do think Charlotte's play calling at times, and Will Healy's a good coach, first-year coach, did get a little bit I think he got just a little bit out ahead of himself.
Yeah.
I don't know how much more they could have went to LeMay. I know they kind of climbed back in the game a couple times, but every time they climbed back, we scored. And I think there was maybe just this little bit of pressure. We got to score at the same pace as FAU. But they were in a lot of second and longs.
For sure.
And I think the style we were playing and just where the run defense came. Well, we're not playing Ohio State or UCF. Okay, we gave up -6 even to an FCS team, and we held Ball State under 150 yards rushing, these are crazy numbers in college football in 2019. And, we have, if you go look at our two deep, not counting kind of that Leo stand-up defensive end, we have 6 seniors on the D-line and on the two deep. So the nose tackle and the 2 kind of 3 technique D ends, 6 seniors. We're talking Ray Ellis, Will Davis, McCary, who's been here. There's Tim Bonner's a senior. He's his 3rd year here. Marcel Southall is a redshirt junior. So, there's just it's hard in Conference USA. I don't know what we're gonna do next year. We're gonna have to find some transfers and stuff, but we'll talk about that another day. But right now, we kind of hit that magic. Like, wow, we have even Jalen Joyner's young. He plays. Colin Dell, who played a few snaps as a senior. I mean, they have like 8 guys, all redshirt juniors or seniors in that front.
Yeah, I think there's 2 things I'll say is happy for Ray Ellis and Tim Bonner, certainly after everything that Ray Ellis has been through, all the medical issues he's had. To see him playing well, that was nice. Tim Bonner, especially at the beginning of the game, was a monster. So I think they're kind of playing to that level now, which is really great. And I agree with you, Shane, that the game, the flow of the game kind of got LeMay out. But if I'm a Charlotte fan, I'm pissed that they did not find a way to get him the ball 20 to 25 times in any way, because I mean he's clearly the best offensive player. And even when one of his big runs, it was like a check down basically on 3rd and 20, and he got it, but there was a hold. He was their best offensive player. And again, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Like where Will Healy kind of got a little too cute. I feel like, in the great words of DJ Khaled, like, congratulations, you played yourself, because he tried to like outcoach Lane and kind of outcoach the situation, and ended up, ended up much worse off for it, because they couldn't figure out a way to get him the ball, and then the game got out of hand. But if I'm a Charlotte fan, I'm pissed at that, but worked out for us.
Yeah, there was like a play, and Benny LeMay is a decent pass receiver, but there was plays where they were like trying to get him out in space a couple times, and I'm like, dude, let's not. Why are we putting Benny LeMay in space? I mean, you turn around, hand him the ball, and Chris Reynolds is a good quarterback. I was texting Eric Henry, who covers FIU and covers the rest of Conference USA, and I said, man, Chris Reynolds feels like a poor man's Brent Stockstill, because it felt like he just kept scrambling, getting away, finding a man downfield. Mm-hmm. There's a few times we let guys open. I thought the secondary communication was a little tough. Had a couple little breakdowns when he scrambled, but we constantly doing this, and I want to get away from this, and I'll talk about why. With the 2017 defense, I want to quit comparing the team to 2017. It feels like we're always doing that.
Right.
But they gave up some yards. We play a lot of man coverage, and that's going to happen in man coverage. But we forced 3 interceptions. So I was really happy that Zion Gilbert got his first pick. That's his first one of his career. He's been a good player and just hasn't had an interception fall. So it was good to see him get one there. But, and James Pierre was out, but we kept talking about other injuries all week. And FAU, people on the forum ask about injuries all the time. FAU is New England Patriots, like, with just keeping injuries to themselves. You can ask Lane, like, a guy leg could fall off in the middle of the game and he gets carted off via ambulance, and you ask Lane on Monday and he's like, well, we'll see if he plays. But Lane's just going to answer the same way every single time. So
he loves to say, I hope he plays.
Yeah.
He loves to say that. We just can't get any information out of him. And that's what Lane Kiffin is known for.
I want to jump back into why, if you don't have to talk about injuries, don't. I mean, it doesn't. Us fans want to know so we could sit, so we could sit there and look at the game and be like, well, we have this guy healthy and this guy healthy, but there's just zero advantage for him to be like, yeah, Harrison Bryant's got a couple nicks, which I think Harrison Bryant does. He's banged up. The guy takes big hits all year, so. But there's no advantage for him to talk about it.
Oh, no, it totally makes sense. So I don't blame him for it. I'm just trying to let other Owl fans know that there's a reason why, we have the information that we have. So it's tough to come by, but I get it. I just wanted to say real quick, Benny LeMay only had 11 carries.
Yeah.
That's what everyone to think about that. That's averaging just under 3, beg your pardon, per quarter. That's insane. Could you ever imagine us giving Motor just 3 carries a quarter? No
Yeah,
way. The game day thread would be in flames if we ever did that. Even if we were losing, it would be a complete dumpster fire.
Yeah. I don't know what happened there.
Ken O'Brien's lost his play calling duties because of that situation.
Right. Beginning of
In the first 3 games of Kiffin's career, plays, but there was rumors, and when they went to Driscoll, that there was some frustration that Motor wasn't getting enough carries, especially like in that Wisconsin game and stuff. So we've seen this kind of happen at FAU before.
Yeah. One. So there's I think two things of note. I mean, certainly Lane, and I really appreciate this about Lane, is he didn't necessarily sugarcoat what happened this weekend. Like, he was happy, but offensive line play, there was still some things, and he said, it was nice, but basically, like, we still got a ways to go, and he mentioned the kicking game. I think everybody lamented the kicking game, including myself. I didn't really talk much during the game, but that was frustrating. But I did find it interesting that I read the quote in the Sun Sentinel, I guess, in his press conference, where he said we were planning on opening the kicking game up anyway. Like, this was already decided before the game, so it's not. I wouldn't say it's a reaction to the game. But he said we were planning on doing that anyway. So it'll be interesting. I mean, Revis, he's missed 2 extra points, and he's got a couple
5-7 on field goals this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably where the misses are that are what's potentially causing the opening up the kicking game. So we'll see what happens. I mean, we really had. And I think there were 2 freshmen that would be the challengers, so maybe they weren't here during the summertime to really challenge.
College kickers. I mean, we talked about it.
I get it.
He's 5 of 7 on the year, and I looked it up today. He's like dead middle in the country. If he would have made 1 more, he'd be like 30th.
Right.
So I know people on the board were like, "Oh, we need kicker change, this and that." I promise you, any other person we're going to put in here might come out and make 4 in a row, and then in a situation when you need to make a kick, they might shank 2 in a row. I mean, it's college kickers. I said before the season, if our kickers in a combination give us somewhere between 75 and 80%, you take that and run with it. And 75 to 80% means you're going to have about 5 or 6 misses on the year. So, I mean, that's where we're at. We're 5 games in. We've had 2 missed field goals.
Yeah, I just think there was something there that Lane sees, and perhaps in practice that. But I just thought it was interesting that he said that they were going to open it up anyway. So
I think he just wants to keep challenging him. Revis's best kicking was at the beginning of the year. He made one at Ohio State. He was really good in this. One of the last fall scrimmages, he went like 3 of 3. So I just think the fact that there was pressure on him, maybe brought him out a little bit. So if Lane's going to be like, "Yo, we're constantly, you lose your job any week," if you getting the best out of him.
I'm just curious, what was the over-under line for us saying the term college kickers throughout this year? We definitely should have had one to start the season.
It's common in college football. Everyone talks about it. Hurricane fans are talking about how they should have. If UM had a kicker, they'd be 4-0 right now.
Right.
They would have put that. He missed that one late in the Florida game.
Mm-hmm.
And then he missed a huge one versus North Carolina. People talk about college kickers all the time because most are very inaccurate.
Let's be real though. If the Canes were 3-0, they probably would have lost to Central Michigan. Let's just be real here though.
I mean, I don't know, but you see, like, the Canes have missed 2 huge field goals attempts this year.
Yeah.
So I'm just comparing it to another local team, and I know we like to bring it up, but it's just like sometimes people freak out about kickers, and when like college kickers miss, I go, that's part of it. I mean, this is again why Lane probably looks at it and goes, "I'm going for it."
Right. Yeah. Unless unless it's crazy. But even then, we went for it at least once on our side of the field, like on like the 35. So that was good to see, because we were very successful with that the previous year. So it was good to last year we weren't as successful doing that. So yeah. So you guys have any last thoughts about Charlotte before we move on? There's again.
I just want to point out the main difference in just the confidence going forward is, what stuck out to me is about 2 times Charlotte got the game within 3 points, especially that one when they made it 21-24. And there was that almost like, here we go again feeling. And every single time they got it, we came back and scored the next drive, which I think is kind of in a small window. That is what's the difference between this year and last year.
Yeah.
Chris is growing up. Before, we'd start out strong, the team would come back, and the offense would just kind of go stagnant. This which we watched all last year. And this year, they're just like, okay, let's just go back out there and score.
Yeah.
And, I mean, that's the difference. And we can beat you in a number of ways. Like I talked about, how we spread the ball around this year is, we don't, there could be a game where we depend on Harrison Bryant to win it, or like John Mitchell dominated a game. So there's a lot of people in a game we can just kind of fall on, to have us win us a game.
I want to bounce off that, Shane. I love that point. We are handling the adversity of this year pretty well. Put Ohio State and UCF aside, we went to 2 pretty, I want to say extraordinarily tough, but pretty difficult road games. Ball State, those fans were pretty up for that game up there in Muncie. Charlotte, it was their homecoming. And even though Ball State took the lead, even though Charlotte came back a couple of times, the crowds were getting involved. We just punched them right back over and over and over again until it became a knockout, game over, see you later. That's the kind of swagger that this team had. And then again, we're going to mention it again, back in 2017. So the confidence level is up there. I love it. Remember how nervous we were last week, guys, going into this game? Now look at us. I think we're going to win the conference. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? Because we have those 2 really big games coming up.
I think this past week's game is a good comparison to Western Kentucky in 2017. We kind of played with them in the first half. It was close, and then we just make too many plays at the end.
Yeah.
So
look,
I think we're the best team in the conference right now. Just from everything I was saying,
if you get, again, for a team that's struggled like last year, to go on the road and win in conference, which throw out rankings, throw out recruiting, everything like that. And I mean, this series is a good example of that, considering that the home team has lost every single game in the series. It's a road game in conference. Anything can happen. It's why Clemson almost lost to North Carolina. So it's nice to walk out of there with somewhat convincing win. So so that was good to see. So since we don't have we've got a bye this week, we might spend a little bit more time going over Conference USA. So like I said, on Sundays, we'll try to go do a little scoreboard, and then there's 1 or 2 games here that are of note. Iowa easily defeated Middle Tennessee 48-3. Cincinnati, I think, is a lot better than most people think, and they kind of curb stomped Marshall 52-14. That was something. UTEP and Southern Miss kind of the, in the West Division, we could be looking at Southern Miss FAU, potentially Conference USA championship game. They beat UTEP 31-13. A much improved Rice team, albeit still 0-5, took Louisiana Tech to overtime, and Louisiana Tech actually won on a Jamar Smith touchdown run. And then much like North Texas, they had a chance to really make some noise at home like we did against UCF, and they kind of fell flat on their face and lost 46-25 against Houston. So they had a chance.
Way worse of a loss than UCF.
Well, yes, but the point is it's an in-state rival. They had a chance to get some bragging rights essentially and lost it. But I think the biggest game of note that I feel like most people were talking about in Conference USA was UAB, Western Kentucky. People, I think, were expecting more out of UAB, and Western Kentucky won 20-13. So, UAB might not be what everybody thought they were, and Western Kentucky might be more further along in the first year of a new head coach.
Yeah, I think that UAB window is gone. I'm sorry for my friends up in Birmingham, but it's Spencer Brown can't do it all. Shane and I were talking about it earlier, just how many players they've lost this offseason. I think if that game is at Legion Field, I think maybe it goes UAB's way. But it was a big crowd up there in Bowling Green at WKU. Maybe they are going to be slightly better, but I also think that the conference in general is just pretty bad. I think we see that with Marshall getting blown out by Cincinnati. And remember, we played Ohio State closer than Cincinnati did. I know that the whole transient thing doesn't really work, but it's just something to hold on to. Marshall got blown out of the water. It's a joke. And a lot of people were saying that Marshall was going to run away with the East. It'd be between Marshall and FIU, and both of them just look piss poor, to be frank. And dude, intellectual brutality for Rice. I'm loving it. I really think they turned the corner. They're not going to go bowling. I don't think it's going to be a great year. Yeah, we're not going to see the Rice Owls like we saw, years ago when they would won the West back to back. I want to say, but I definitely think they turned the corner against a Louisiana Tech team who should fight with Southern Miss to win the West. And last but not least, Frank Wilson. If he loses the UTEP, I think he's going to be the first coach gone. Almost in a nation. I forgot about the Rutgers head coach getting fired after they got curb stomped by Michigan. But beyond that, he could be the first Group of 5 coach gone because his hot seat, his seat is on fire. It's rough.
Yeah, I think the Marshall game is, and I was shocked kind of by the Marshall score. Marshall's just struggling on offense right now. Isaiah Green is not playing well. They're having trouble running the ball. Usually Marshall has a really good big O-line, and, they kicked Tyler King off the team, who was their leading rusher last year. Their best wide receiver has not been able to get healthy, and I think it's just kind of pouring on them. It was just shocking, and, we're going through some Conference USA scores, and Conference USA is bad right now. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I think the bottom of the conference is getting a little better, even though it's say it, but there's just kind of a lot of muck in the conference. Why it's gonna be kind of easy. I would say right now FAU would probably be favored in every game the rest of the season. Right now they're probably favored in every game the rest of the season.
Yeah.
I would have to pull. I was looking for the S&P for the rest of the season. You gotta pay to get that, but I'm guessing FAU would have the higher chance to win every game the rest of the season. Southern
only
Miss
game would be maybe SMU, Southern Miss, potentially.
Yeah. Well, USM.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I said SMU. My bad.
Yeah, they have a good defensive front, but wow, I'm shocked at Marshall. No, Marshall could still get us. They're still a Doc Holliday coach team, so I wouldn't be shocked if they get it going. But our next 2 games, did not look as tough as they did a couple weeks ago. We're coming off a bye, and they're both at home, and then we get Marshall on the short week. I'm getting my hopes up. So it's feeling good. Yeah. But, it's the top teams in Conference USA, kind of the quote-unquote blue bloods of Conference USA are not playing to a super high level right now. Marshall's not supposed to lose by 5 touchdowns to Cincinnati. Right. That's bad. So.
Yeah. So.
And I want to bring this full circle real quick. We were talking about how Reynolds looked like a poor man's stock still. Well, O'Hara over there in Murfreesboro looks just like stock still. And we're talking about how Reynolds, when he scrambled outside the pocket, that's when the defense, especially the coverage, defensive back coverage, started to show some loopholes. So we're talking about the Dog Holiday Marshall team, how they can always surprise you. We got to think about that as well, about Middle Tennessee's offensive capability and how that relates to our weaknesses on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah. So,
besides that, we're going to win the conference, guys. We're winning the conference. That's it.
Yes.
I said, I know FU fans get frustrated with it. We are going to give up some pass yards in games. It's just kind of the style we play. We're willing to give up a few third downs a game to take our chances and get some interceptions. It's how we played in 2017. Let our DBs go ahead. If you throw it enough times on the run, you're eventually going to make mistakes.
Shout out Nico Dotson, 2 picks.
Yeah, it was good to see him because he struggled in the Ball State game when he first started. So
yeah.
It's good to see him, kind of get in there and show some depth at the outside corner.
Yeah. So, we'll see what happens the rest of the year. So this will be our only episode for the week. You can get this out next week, but make sure you are following everything along on FAUAllisNest.com. All Lane's press conferences and all the videos and everything like that get posted there. Check us out all on Twitter, podcast, your favorite podcasting app, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcast. Thank you for that one guy that listens on the iTunes desktop app that we always could see how people listen, and there's one person that's out there listening on iTunes. So shout out to that guy because we
not Apple Podcasts, it's just the iTunes desktop app.
Yeah, the iTunes desktop. Yeah, so most people are listening on their phone or mobile device. There's that one person that I guess you have it up at work. I do the same thing, and so we appreciate the subscribers and everything like that. But it's just funny that there's always that one, so we appreciate that guy.
FAU fans, I know there's with the bye week, Marshall and Middle Tennessee play each other this weekend. So you get our next 2 opponents. They play each other, I believe 2:30 or 3:30. I don't know the TV, but that would be a good game to keep an eye on. You see what they look like. So watch that game this weekend.
Yeah, there's not as many games this coming weekend. I think there's a lot of teams, a couple of teams on a bye, but there's some intriguing games, and certainly Marshall, MTSU as well.
Yeah, and FAU really needs a bye.
Yes.
Also just kind of lingered. No one's, a lot of people, again, we talked about injuries a little earlier in the show. It's not like a ton of serious things, but there's just kind of a ton of little, first 5 games of the season banged up. The bye team, I know Lane said in this press conference that we're kind of riding momentum, but I think the bye team is a really good time for us.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us again, and we will see you guys next week. Go Owls.